welcome to Policy and Politics with me, Tarun Nangia. In our part 2, we're going to discuss how Prime Minister Narendra Modi can play the role of a bridge builder between Russia and America, how India is going to look after its own self-interests in the area of trade and commerce with America, in the area of defense relations with both America and Russia, and is the announcement of increasing India's bilateral trade from $10 billion to $30 billion with Russia, can it become a reality? Can it become a reality if we only deal in military hardware, or there is scope for other cooperation in other areas like energy, and also India's energy future? Can India secure its energy future by having energy assets in Russia's Far East and other areas of Russia? I have with me Ambassador Tayal and Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar in the studio to discuss this. Welcome. We'll start with our round of opening comments. Ambassador Tayal, your opening comment on this issue.
If we look at the future and India's own interest, and if we want to become a $5 trillion economy in 5 years, we have to have integration of our economy with the global economy.
Yes.
We must be part of the value chains in different manufacturing goods, and also shift from a import-based economy to a manufacturing economy.
Yes.
Now, in that broad context and that objectives, where is United States and where is Russia? There I find that Russia may have a lot of strategic importance for us.
Yes.
It may have a lot of importance as far as energy is concerned.
Yes.
But for the rest of economy,
yes,
for the economic development of India, for economic growth of India, for economic modernization of India, perhaps Russia is no longer as important a partner as it used to be in the 60s, when our BHEL and our Coal India and all the public sector undertakings were established, with the Soviet help,
yes,
Ranchi and everything.
Yes.
And because they are themselves slipping as far as the technological advancement is concerned. They are. Not one new invention has come from there.
If I may interject at this point.
Let's say 5G.
Yes.
Where is Russia? We don't see any Russian company.
I may want to interject at this point. I want to know from you. I was told that Russia was not too keen to sell to China because they feel that they reverse engineer too fast. How true is this in your opinion? And then you can also make
at least the Chinese defense equipment,
yes,
much of it, like the planes which they are making, they have been reverse engineered. But now the Chinese capacities, they reverse engineer, but they are also able to advance on that.
Oh.
And not keep on importing technology, as unfortunately we tend to do. We keep on importing technology and new generation of whatever equipment we buy,
yes,
whereas China does not do that. They buy one generation equipment, then reverse engineer or whatever they do, but the next generation they are able to develop themselves. Now, in this growth path for India, I see in future United States may be a more effective partner. Prime Minister, when he met President Trump in Osaka for G20, he said 5G we will develop together.
Is it?
Yes, this was a statement that 5G will not buy, we will develop together with the United States. And that is possible. Because of, again, I will say that 3 million people who are there in their IT sector.
You mean Indian assets in US?
Indian assets are there, so there is a comfort level. There is already all kinds of interlinkages are there. So much of their IT work is being done in India after all. GE and all, they have huge development centers in Bangalore, General Electric. So, for our future technological growth, modernization of industry, I find perhaps America will be a better and more effective partner as compared to Russia.
Interesting observation by Ambassador Tayal. Ambassador Sajjanhar, your views, would you agree with, concur with Ambassador Tayal, and your own view on this issue?
Yes, absolutely. You know, right at the beginning when I had said that, for India, the most important, vital partner, strategic partner, would be the United States. And I had mentioned capital, I had mentioned technology, what Ambassador Tayal has mentioned. And in Osaka, again, as he said very rightly, because, there is this battle going on as far as the Huawei 5G technology is concerned. Mr. Trump wants all countries to sort of, stay away because it is a security risk, a security threat. We, of course, will have to see where our interests lie.
And we have not taken a decision on that.
We have not taken a decision so far. So that is what it was mentioned. And I think it's a win-win situation for both India and the United States, because the United States wants to stay away from Chinese technology. Because right now, the so-called US-China trade war, it is much less of a trade war, and it is in actuality, in fact, it is a war for technological and strategic domination of the world.
Even this is war by other means. No longer wars happen. You throw bombs at each other. Would you even go to the extent of saying that?
Well, at the moment, not really, but it is definitely a very serious contestation. It is contestation for influence. It is contestation for power. It is contestation for authority. Because, after 2008, I think that can be taken to be, in my view, a bit of a watershed. That after that, the West declined, China rose, and then the relative difference between the two has continued to grow. And this should have happened, what Mr. Trump has been doing in terms of saying that the trade deficit with China is unacceptable. It was $375 billion in 2017. And notwithstanding the fact that all these tariffs have been imposed on $250 billion of imports coming in from China to the United States, also on steel, also on aluminium.
If I may interject you at this point, Trump bullied India, where we were removed from the GSP, which is a generalized system of preferences. Then they imposed duties on Indian aluminium and other products. We imposed duties on 28 of their products. Do you think it was too early for America to do that? Because we are still a developing nation. We are nowhere in the league of either China or other developed economies like the UK also, or Japan.
Absolutely. I think what Mr. Trump says, that it is unacceptable, these high tariffs, and he calls India tariff king, etc., etc. Number one, we have to remember all our tariffs are as per our international obligations under the WTO. Okay. International trade is regulated by the World Trade Organization. And whatever commitments we have taken under the WTO, our tariffs are in conformity with that. So Mr. Trump has no ground to say that our tariffs are high. If they think our tariffs are high, let's come to the WTO, let's negotiate. Okay. The point here is that when the tariffs on import of steel and aluminium from India, they were raised. That is on national security interests. Now, how are Indian exports of steel and aluminium going to adversely impact upon US national security? So I don't buy that argument at all. Incidentally, our increase on 28, on tariffs of 28 items coming from the United States, that is not against removal of GSP, because GSP is a voluntary a scheme that the United States is. We had put it that we are going to increase this after Mr. Trump had taken the decision on steel and aluminium. But we kept on deferring it. And when Mr. Trump also removed the GSP, that is when, in the middle of June, we said
very quickly, I want one 10-second point from you. As Ambassador Tayal mentioned, that Russia on the technology front militarily may be good, but on other technologies, for example, 5G is a clear contest between USA, Sweden and China. Russia has lost that position. Is that why the economy is feeling pinch and to other issues are there?
Let me put it this way. Russia has never been a manufacturing economy. Never. It has been either an energy commodities export or it has been a military industrial complex, defense. So the technology that it has mastered are basically in the defense sector. And when you were asking Ambassador Tayal that, the supply of technology to China, it was in the area of defense technology, defense equipment, not in any other, actually one of the reasons why Soviet Union went under was because they had nothing of quality to compete with the Western world in terms of consumer goods. Fast-moving consumer goods, meaning Skand was there, I was there.
So you mean like cars, mobile phones and...
Nothing. It used to be sort of, 20-year wait. And there were no washing machines.
Fiat plant they imported.
Yeah. Yeah,
for jiggly.
absolutely. It used to be sort of, so in the area of engineering, in the area of technology, on consumer goods, etc., Russia doesn't stand nowhere at all.
And that is becoming a problem where you see China rising.
Yes.
And, we'll come to that point. But now, as you see, India-US trade talks ended without major progress recently, and we have Piyush Goyal, our Commerce Minister, visiting United States next month. Let us see what those talks yield. Very important talks for India. I'll ask the expectations that Ambassador Tayal has. What do you expect? Because I think America is proving to be a very tough negotiator in the areas of trade. Is it a different America that India is facing now?
Unfortunately, in the USTR, the US Trade Representative is a lawyer.
Yes.
And he wants everything in black and white with pure commitments and totally signed and sealed kind of.
But we are also sending a chartered accountant there.
But that's why whatever understanding one may have with Secretary of State Pompeo and etc. doesn't hold any water as far as the USTR is concerned. So this will be tough negotiations, and I would say that one should feel where the wind is blowing. And our government should make some concessions on some items of non-consequence, really, Harley-Davidson or whatever may be the current fancy of the present administration. Yes. But hold firm on more substantive points.
Okay.
And that should be the strategy. Don't be totally rigid. Give something so that the other side can also claim that they have got some concessions from India, but hold firm where our long-term and really important interests are there.
Okay. See, Trump has said that in the next month visit will be a very big trade deal with India. Is that Trump talking, or is something is going to happen, or is this one of those statements that Trump routinely makes?
He said in Osaka that, we'll see a big mega trade deal, etc., etc. Yes. But after that, he went to the United States and again he said, that these tariffs are unacceptable.
Yes, and that's on Twitter.
So I think we have to take, of course, he's the president of the most powerful country in the world, so he has to be taken with that much of seriousness.
Yes.
But, I really don't have the slightest doubt that we will be able to resolve this issue quite amicably. I don't think, let us also look at what Foreign Secretary Vijay Gokhale said, when he was also talking about S-400 and also about trade. He says our relationship is between India and the United States is so diverse, it is so vibrant, it is so deep that no one or two issues will in any case be
even
able
this
to
will not affect
impact on the overall strength and overall vitality of the relationship. And as far as this is concerned, and I agree with Skand that on things like Harley-Davidson, Mr. Trump seems to be wedded to that because, Harley-Davidson factory seems to be in his constituency, where we import 90 units. We have reduced the duty from 100 to 50%. Let's reduce it from 50 to 0. He will at least not have a talking point. Because in all
these are small decisions.
These are small decisions from 90 units. It will go to 150 units, 200 units. What difference does it make? So I think on our side also, rather than being wedded to the principle that, we have this much of, under the WTO, which on principle, on law, legality, we are absolutely right. But I think let us also be pragmatic. Let's also be pragmatic and compromise and move forward. And other thing that we can do is import larger quantities of oil. We need larger quantities of oil and gas from there.
But I think we're already importing shale.
But let's make it more, because after all, we have said we need
more. The deficit will come down.
Yeah, the deficit will come down. As it has come down, from about $25-26 billion, it's now $21-22 billion.
So the deficit between India-US trade is coming down. We'll take a short break at this juncture and be right back. Welcome back. Just before the break, we discussed trade issues between India and USA. Now, two important points I'm going to take up. The first would be Director General of Russia's Roskomnadzor is deputy, and also the former Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, Dmitry Rogozin, held high-level talks with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval 2 weeks ago. Both sides have agreed to take up bilateral cooperation on the Make in India program, but more importantly also on the Gaganyaan mission, which on India's 75th anniversary of India's independence, we have to have an Indian astronaut in space. Very important operation for India. Because we have chosen a time when it has to happen, which is India's first human space flight mission. So this is one round of talks which happened. The second issue is India is also set to sign a US-like defense logistics sharing pact with Russia, which they call the Agreement on Reciprocal Logistics Support. So how important these two things are in your eyes, and also that after India signed such a deal with US, Russia also is signing it with us. Do you think there is some kind of worry on the Russian side that they also now need to come closer to India and keep up the level of engagement? How would you see this diplomatically, this approach by Russia?
I think certainly there is a desire and urge to have very close relations with India. President Putin does not have annual summits with all the leaders of the world, but Prime Minister Modi, he is having annual summits.
Yes.
But I will say Indian astronaut going in Gaganyaan, etc., in my view, is not very important. After all, Rakesh Sharma had gone in the 80s, and after that, what happened to now we are able to send somebody to. But if there is any discussion between a Russian high-powered person and our NSA, the critical issue is Afghanistan.
Okay.
Where is Afghanistan headed? Why is Russia trying to accommodate Taliban when, after all, Soviet Union crumbled because of what happened in Afghanistan?
Yes.
So why is suddenly every country, including Russia, is trying to have a deal with Taliban?
Even is this a message for India?
Of course, we are changing our position. We have already changed our position.
No,
we
is
are
there
not
a message
no
for
longer
India and Russia's stance?
We have to try to convince Russia that whatever may be the verbal assurances of Taliban, whether you can depend on that. And eventually, if Afghanistan falls again under the control of Taliban, will Tajikistan, will Uzbekistan, and they have their own Muslim majority areas, Dagestan and all kinds of places, Chechen area is there. So we have to have a more intense dialogue with Russia. As far as NSA is concerned, Gaganyaan, etc., I don't think that's very important.
You don't think that is. But one more point, talking about Russia's Far East, just for our viewers, this area is about twice the size of India. And the population is 1/3 of what the city of Delhi has. So you're talking of a population of 60 lakh people in an area which is twice the size of India. These numbers are mind-boggling. So Russia also desperately needs a lot of investment there in oil and gas exploration. And for India, it's a win-win situation because it seems as if we can secure your energy supplies from there. What are the practical issues in this? We'll understand from Ambassador Sajjanhar. How would you look at this? Is it a place where we can secure our energy future from?
Absolutely. I think this is the fact that Prime Minister Modi has been invited as the chief guest at the Eastern Economic Forum, which is going to take place in early September. I think that's a huge opportunity, and this could really provide a huge impetus to our bilateral relations in trade and also in investment. You know, we have invested in that area, in the Far East area, when with our ONGC Videsh Limited, OVL, had partnered with Rosneft, and we have gone to the Sakhalin. So from there we have been importing gas, but I think this will be developing that area in a very big way. And since you asked me that question, let me also add on to it, because when Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Putin met also in Bishkek, India was also invited to collaborate with Russia in the Arctic area.
Okay.
And Arctic is also extremely rich, not only in energy, oil, gas, but in large types of minerals. And if we look at the Arctic Council, the composition of the Arctic Council, there are 8 members of Arctic Council, but India has become an observer in 2013. But Russia has about 60 to 70% of that area because of its, its exclusive economic zone. So, a maritime area, it has control over that. So, I think if India were to collaborate with Russia in the Arctic area and in the Far East, that is going to be extremely useful and extremely beneficial. And it will help Russia also possibly to move out a little of the very vice-like grip of China.
Okay.
So maybe that is one element of interest. If you permit, Tarun, I will just want to mention maybe in 1 or 2 sentences. The question that you had asked Ambassador Tayal, whether India should sort of, try to mediate between US and Russia. In my view, I think our possibilities, the clout that we have is somewhat limited. I'll tell you why. Because as far as the United States is concerned, there is a difference of opinion between Mr. Trump, who wants better relations with Russia,
yes,
and the Congress, who is not willing to countenance, any improvement of relations. So I think if India has to succeed in any way, there has to be a commonality of position as far as the United States is concerned.
Very quick point. President Putin made a point recently that one of their forums, the economic forums, 500 American businessmen attended it. Is he indicating that he would want investment from America also? Does he want investment now in his country? That's why he's making those kind of points.
Absolutely. I think as far as Mr. Putin is concerned, he has always been open to the idea of having good relations with the United States. If you remember, yes, all these things about Mueller report and all, Russia interfering. Yes. Why? Because Russia wanted Mr. Trump to become the president, because Trump had been making statements and comments, yes, that he would like better relations with Russia.
So it is clear that Putin wants American investment.
Absolutely.
American companies to come to, yes, Russia.
Yes, and he wants better relations with the United States, which Trump wants, but which Congress doesn't want. Okay. So our possibilities in that sense
are limited.
Get very restricted unless we see a common position coming from the United States.
Ambassador Tayal, how would you look at it? Putin making a comment, President Putin saying that there were 500 American business in one of the economic summits they had. Do you think he's angling and he wants American companies now to invest in Russia? As of course he wants Indian companies.
Of course, the way the American politics runs,
yes,
it is on lobbying system.
Yes.
All the congressmen, etc., get funds from American industry.
Yes.
How has China built a lobby in America? How the trade deficits were allowed to grow to $300 billion, $400, because of the American industry invested in China, produced there and re-exported back to the United States. So President Putin has understood it, that if you want to neutralize this negative feeling among their elected representatives, Congress or senators, the way to reach there is through the American investors, American corporations and American companies. So that's why they are inviting him. So there is a strategy. It will be long term, but if it succeeds, then American perception you will see of Russia will start changing. It will be a long process, but of course it depends on what terms for investment, and I'm sure Russia also wants that it should not be dominated by China as far as the foreign investment is concerned. It should come also from US, because US also has technology for permafrost areas, Arctic areas and all.
That's an important point. So there could be in future, the possibilities are endless, but I would like to thank Ambassadors Tayal and Ambassador Sajjanhar for sparing their time for this episode. But we may have to revisit this issue very soon, because 2 important visits. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal goes to meet the USTR, who is a US trade representative in the United States of America next month, followed up by Prime Minister Modi being the chief guest at the Far Eastern Economic Forum in Russia in the month of September. So I think a lot of important developments would need to be tracked on how will India, what will India demand, what will this whole meeting be about in America, will be the big breakthrough as Trump has said, and in Far East what are the kind of financial commitments and investments that Prime Minister will announce when he will go there. But that's it for now. Thank you so much viewers for joining us on this 2-part series on how India will manage relations between two great world powers, Russia and United States of America. Thank you.